Mbalenhle Mthethwa in Parktown. Good afternoon, Mbalenhle. What happened?
Good afternoon, Zinga. A lot has happened relating to the issue of proper procurement policies and procedures not being followed and also being flouted in the interest of a Tageta contract. Now, what happened is that Snehal Nagar has been giving testimony, and he's spoken of how he first received an email from an Ayanda Ndete, who sent him an email with an invoice in it, a pro forma, but let's just call it an invoice. Basically, it was a prepayment invoice of 659 million rand. Now, he thought this was strange because the invoice number on that invoice was not correlating with regular invoice numbers from Eskom. It seemed like it was a Tageta invoice number and not an Eskom number. And further, they had not received any goods from Tageta. So this is one of the other things that made this particular invoice very peculiar. This was then followed by what seemed like an urgent board meeting that convened at 9 p.m. at night on the 12th of April in 2016. This then led to him getting a phone call from the office of the then CFO, Anoj Singh, who then he got the phone call from the office of Anoj Singh from a certain Maya Naidu, who then instructed him that this contract had been signed and that he needed to make the payment to Tageta. The alleged contract in question was allegedly signed by Head of Generation Majela Koko and witnessed by then CFO Anoj Singh. This was then, Naga was instructed to make this payment by 2 p.m. on that particular day, on the 13th of April. And he said that this did not give them enough time to follow proper procedures with regards to procurement and led to them flouting a few rules in order to pay this. So what happened was, with regards to making this payment, they had to put this contract, this invoice against an already existing client, which was Parktown. So the Parktown order was then altered in order to accommodate this 659 million rand that was meant to be sent through to Tageta. And this was because Tageta did not have an account with Eskom. So this is how the rules were bent in order to pay this prepayment, which he says was rather unusual because in the time that he'd been working at Eskom, this had never, ever happened. And, we know that Tageta is one of those companies, is a Gupta-linked companies that is allegedly 65% owned by Gupta, 29% owned by Oak Bay, and it's also there's also a 28% stake that is owned by Mbalenhle, which is alleged to have been partly owned by former President Jacob Zuma's son, Tutuzana Zuma, and amongst others. So this is how the rules were bent, and a prepayment of 659 million rand was paid to Tageta for goods not received, for services not rendered, and how another contract had to be altered in order to make this payment go ahead. Now, these all seem like he also said that this was how the contract was paid was very unusual and as well as somehow dodgy, if you can say. But for now, it's back to you in studio. He will continue with testimony after the break, and we'll hear more about how these payments and these rules were bent in the interest of Gupta-linked company Tageta.
Mbalenhle Mthethwa giving us an update from the state capture inquiry there. Your news headlines, your market news coming up after a short break. Please stay with us.